Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to start this morning with the antitrust compliance statement. The Four Rivers Association of Realtors is committed to enhancing the real estate industry in Texas. Our meetings aim to promote the interests of real estate professionals and consumers, foster competition, and share best practices. Discussions that violate antitrust laws such as price fixing or limiting service offerings are strictly prohibited. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, for being here. Please silence your phones. Thank you. And I'd like to say a special thank you to our affiliate sponsor, Mr. Kevin Roberts. I believe he's going to. Thank you for feeding us. And I think are you going to give us a little tidbit about who you are and how awesome you are?
Well, 8:30 Friday night, I got a phone call. I didn't answer the phone. 9 o'clock, got another phone call. Didn't answer. I was asleep. I was in the bed. So I didn't think about it. So Saturday morning, I woke up, go to Doss Rec and take my son to swim practice with Surge. And I didn't think about it. So actually, after we finished, I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and make a phone call. Let me go ahead and see who called me. Someone called me. They received a letter from the IRS saying that they need to take some action. And guess what? They need to take action by the 29th of April. 29th of April. I received this phone call this past Friday, but I need to take action 29th of April. So got information, found out what happened, and found out why she contacted me on my cell phone. I said, oh, who is this calling me? They contacted me on my cell phone, so I went on and said, okay, let me go ahead and answer. They were referred by another CPA firm. The CPA firm said they couldn't do it and couldn't help her. So what I had to do is I had to stop everything that I was doing Monday and deal with that whole tax situation. So she was able to, I started working on that case 8 o'clock that morning. So I had to have everything signed by 3 o'clock so I can take this to the post office. But guess what? She didn't have everything signed until 4:15. So I had to go rush to the post office before they close. This is actually a true story. My job is to actually protect my client's rights. So I had to petition the tax court. I'm not an attorney. I just want to help that person out to make sure that she preserved the rights to go to tax court and to make sure that everything was right with the IRS. So that's what I did. Now she's good. Now I can go ahead and take a further look at a case. My job is to help, assist, and educate you all in these type of situations. When you all receive it, and I can help, 99.999% of cases don't go to tax court. It goes to settlement, mediation, so I'm helping. That's where I come into play. I have over 25 years experience in the tax industry. I used to own Liberty Tax. I have 5 stores in San Antonio. And it's just a whole variety of services I provide. I don't do tax preparation. I only do tax problem solving. So if y'all need me, I'm here. Also, if y'all ever want to know what type of letter that y'all receive from the IRS, if you want to know what they mean, I do have a guide for you all that I've created for real estate professionals, and it does help and explain those letters, when you need to respond, how you need to respond. So if you need me, I'm here. I'm available, so don't hesitate. But I just love doing what I do. Love helping people out. If you have any tax issues and tax questions, I'm here. I'm available. You're gonna see my face. I'm on the board as well. So you just go ahead and contact me, call me, do whatever. I don't care. I also can monitor tax accounts. This is what CPA firms don't do. What they don't do, I can do. I'll partner with other CPA firms, like I said earlier. But thank y'all for having me. And if y'all have any questions, like I said, don't hesitate. If you all want me to present at y'all's office as well, I'm able to do that. Talk about those tax issues, those things that I see, especially with those 1099s when people get to sell, when they sell their homes. My issue and the things that I've seen that your clients, when they sell their home, they don't report those 1099-S statements. And so they don't. I had one client quite a few clients that did it, and they got a letter from the IRS. I had to go back and go to tax court and do some other things to help them to preserve their rights. So that's my whole job, is to help. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Now, Miss Natalie Land is going to come up and she is our Professional Standards Committee Chair, and she's going to give you guys some information. Thank you, Natalie.
Good morning. I am Natalie Land. I am your 2025 Pro Standards Chair. And the reason I wanted to get a little shameless plug in, and I asked Melissa if it would be okay if I popped in super quick, is to remind you that right now, code of ethics is a big deal. Okay, professional standards is a big deal, especially right now, especially as much as we're promoting advocacy amongst, our industry, right? It's all about promoting the realtor here, not here. I don't know if you noticed on the Monday morning memo, but our committee has put together videos, and they're going to be articles. It's 1 to 17, so you're going to see them throughout the year. And we're going to talk about situations and scenarios that come up. And then once those situations and scenarios come up, the following video, thanks to my sweet Raven, we give you the answer. Use those in your sales meetings. Use those to help direct new agents. I'm using them for mine. So I just want to use that to empower you, to send them to us. We're a place of resource and education. Okay. So send them. If anybody has a problem or something's come up, get them to call us. Sometimes it tickles me. Agents will say, hey, I didn't talk to my broker. I just talked to you. Is that okay? I'm like, it's absolutely fine to talk to the committee and visit with us about what's happening, and we'll give them some good advice, but we will always tell them to go back to their broker. But shameless plug, call the Pro Standards Committee if you need it.
Awesome. Okay, next up, we have Robin Harris with he's the Deputy General Counsel, and he's going to give us an update on paragraph 12 with a Q&A during. Okay. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone. Am I able to share my screen? Let's see. I'm gonna share my screen here really quick. And y'all are able to hear me okay? Guessing that's a yes. Share. Are we able to see the slide presentation? Thumbs up. I'm moving forward. Hey, thanks for having me. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Regina, for inviting me. I'm Robin Harris. I'm the Deputy General Counsel here at Texas Realtors. It's a new position for me. This is a position formerly held by David Jones, who was recently promoted to our Chief Operating Officer. So I am, for those of you who don't know me, I've been here since 2019. I've been around doing legal updates and presentations during our different events that we hold. And I know that I've met and know a lot of you, but I'm excited to be here today to talk about some important things. First, I can't do a legal update without talking a little bit about some of the lawsuits and litigation that have gone on. Y'all heard the antitrust statement that was read at the beginning of the meeting and on the agenda printed. So 2 thumbs up for that from the lawyer. If you remember, after the NAR verdict, there were 2 cases that were filed in Texas, in the federal Northern District of Texas. After the NAR settlement announcement, those cases were put on hold while that settlement was resolved and everything that happened there. So now that the settlement has been finalized, the next steps on the settlement on those cases are the appeals. Those appeals are currently working their way through the courts. There are different deadlines and things that go on. So the Texas cases are still kind of on hold and waiting for those to get resolved. So we're working on that. So there are officially no updates, but if anyone's wondering what's going on with the Texas cases, that's where we're at. The other thing I wanted to do was a quick legislation update. We do have a bill, one of our main priority bills related to agency that recently passed the full Senate and is going to up for vote in the House for approval. It's a bill that does three things. It eliminates sub-agency from the Real Estate Act. So it's something that's been confusing for a lot of people, what sub-agency does. It's a relic of the past, really, that was in place and useful when buyers often didn't have their own representation. And the second thing is to allow for non-agency or non-representation for showings for buyer brokers and buyer agents. So in Texas, currently the way that it works is you represent somebody in the transaction, either the seller or the buyer, and that's where sub-agency kind of works in. There's a lot of confusion around how sub-agency works on all sides. And so we thought by eliminating sub-agency, by allowing non-agency showings, then potential buyers could come in, could talk to a broker or an agent about a home and not have to commit to a representation agreement or something like that. And so, so that's another second piece of the legislation. The third piece is requiring a buyer representation agreement at or before the time an offer is made. So this is all supported by TREC. We worked with them on getting some of the things that they wanted, especially on the sub-agency side. I think everyone's just tired of dealing with that and answering those questions. So we'll keep everyone updated. Keep your eyes out for our legislative updates that come through on those, on that bill and all of the other things that we have going on here at the legislature. Some of the things that we'll talk about today, I'm going to talk about the forms. I also had some MLS information, but I see that here in a little bit, y'all have Central Texas MLS coming in, Beckie and Mike, to talk about that. So that may be just a quick breeze through because I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. But I will talk about our listing agreements and listing services that are listed in there, why they're important as it relates to listing options, and some of the potential changes that may be coming. So get started on paragraph 12. And so this is something that everyone's been dealing with for several months now, right? And so everyone's kind of aware and has heard some of the information about it, has heard what you're supposed to do, but there are a lot of different opinions and a lot of people still don't understand. It's the number one question that we get on the legal hotline still. There are even some agents who haven't even done a transaction yet with the new paragraph 12 and contract forms. So a lot of confusion there. So if you remember, we'll go back in time a little bit. Broker Lawyer Committee recommended some changes to the contract. After several hours of meetings, they went through, they discussed what would be the most appropriate so that both consumers can have clarity on compensation, but also with these new changes to NAR's rules and how compensation goes through, how they can also help agents and license holders be in compliance with that. So what they ended up doing was focusing on the seller concessions part of things and changing the contracts to allow for seller concessions. They had hour after hour of meetings on this. They had several discussions. It was all on video. Several of us here at the office, we watched it all, either in person or on video, just so that we could keep up with what's going on. They had the discussion about whether they should add the paragraph like in the farm and ranch contract when it comes to compensation, or if they should make other changes, and here's where they settled. And so it's this settlement and other expenses paragraph in paragraph 12. If you recall, this is broken up into two parts. Seller expenses are the top paragraph, that's subparagraph 1. And then buyer expenses is subparagraph 2. So they made 2 changes to these paragraphs. They added a new line, which is now A1B, to allow for brokerage fees. And then in paragraph 2, which is buyer expenses, they added brokerage fees that the buyer has agreed to pay. And so the wording on that, I know not everyone is a lawyer and likes to spend time working on 5-word sentences, but they spent a lot of time going through on how to word that particular phrase. And it's a little bit confusing to people, but it's important when you're looking at paragraph 12 and you're explaining this either to your agents, to colleagues who have questions about it. It's important to always start at the top of the sentence, or excuse me, at the top of the paragraph, and read all of the paragraph together. That's how it's intended to go, is together. And that's where a lot of the disconnect is that not everyone's reading from the top down. So if you start here at the top, we're looking at the following expenses must be paid at or prior to closing. And so the first paragraph is seller shall pay the following expenses, the following amount to be applied to brokerage fees that the buyer has agreed to pay. And then there's the lines there with the check boxes. It's important to check one of those boxes if you're putting a number in one of those lines. It's also important to remember that brokerage fees that the buyer has agreed to pay, that refers back to the buyer representation agreement. So those are buyer expenses, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit. Now, this is one way to get compensation into the contract. Everyone remembers the other way. This is how it used to be disclosed and how it used to be done. That's on page 10 of the contract, the paragraph at the very bottom, that disclosure language. This is specific to, this is not coming out of the seller expenses. This is not a concession. This is, and here's the important part, pursuant to a previous separate agreement, listing broker has agreed to pay other broker, and then it has, again, the boxes and the blanks. This disclosure is for informational purposes. Remember, this page 10, this is broker information, print names, do not sign. This is not part of the contract. This does not create a contractual agreement necessarily between the brokers or with the parties. The parties to the contract are the seller and the buyer. So when we're talking about these 2 methods of compensation, these 2 ways that the brokers can get compensated, it all goes back to the agreements that everyone has. So who's paying the buyer's broker? And this is the analysis that needs to be done. This is the Texas Realtors listing agreement. This is paragraph 5. So this is where it talks about broker compensation. When we made this change after NAR settlement announcement, we looked closely at the best ways that we could make sure that both consumers have the ability for choosing how they're going to do compensation, and also for brokers to be clear on how and when they're getting paid. So we added this required disclosure at the top that broker compensation is not set by law and is in fact fully negotiable. And then we separated paragraph 5 into 5A or 5B, and it has the instruction there in the parentheses, complete either 5A or 5B only. So this allows the seller and broker to negotiate whether the seller will pay the listing broker an amount that includes compensation to the buyer's broker. That's going to be what is listed here in paragraph 5A. So if you break it down, 5A1 is the total amount that goes to the listing broker. 5A2 is the amount of cooperative compensation. So that's the amount shared with the buyer broker. And that's all here listed in the listing agreement. The listing broker is responsible for paying the buyer broker from their fee, similar to how compensation on the MLS previously worked. So all of this used to be done in the MLS, right, where it's the unilateral offer of compensation with that amount that was listed. That amount's not there in the MLS anymore. So that's how, this is where we look at, where we get that clarity. Paragraph 5B, this is for broker fees without compensation to the other broker. So this is if the seller wants to pay their broker, and that's it. They want to pay their broker. They don't want to pay the buyer broker. They're not willing to do so. It also includes this paragraph underneath that authorizes the listing broker, yes or no, to disclose that the seller does or does not authorize the broker to disclose that the seller may be willing to consider some amount of contribution to the buyer broker expenses. So this is, and this doesn't have to be just buyer broker expenses. This is any of the buyer expenses. So remember, all those were defined in the contract. Now, we have this analysis. This is the super fancy lawyer flowchart with all of the graphics. Well, we have a graphics and marketing department here at Texas Realtors who do amazing stuff. Can't always use them for these kind of things. So we get these arrows and kind of weird, clunky things, but we're going to walk through it so that we can see how the analysis breaks down. The question is, who's paying the buyer's broker? And so this will tell you which paragraph to complete in the contract, paragraph 12 or paragraph, the paragraph at the bottom of page 10. And I know there was time for questions kind of built in. This is a good place. Does anyone have any questions as I'm going through? I see a hand in the back. I'm not able to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. We got the microphone turned on. Here's Katie.
Excellent.
Okay, and this is kind of probably a blended question for MLS and for this authorization to disclose. If we're getting authorization to disclose on the listing agreement, then I know MLS has it where we're not allowed to disclose. Could it not be an option to disclose that somewhere in the MLS? So MLS needs, they don't want us to put it anywhere.
Because it could be considered compensation. It could be considered offering some compensation, and that's what those antitrust lawyers are looking at. So that was the agreement in the settlement, is that no compensation, and that includes, yes, we would be willing to, like, you can't even hint at it. So the disclosure can be on a brokerage website. It can be over the phone or through an email when you're getting a question from a buyer broker about putting an offer in.
So if they check no, we are not authorized to disclose that there's either compensation or not compensation, which I feel like most sellers don't even know what's going on here. We're more in tune to it. If they check no, and then we get asked and we say, we just can't answer that question, so then they just need to write up their offer with either compensation in there or not.
Yeah, I mean, seller is not authorized to disclose.
Do you mind if I address this a little bit, Robin? My name's Garrett Brandt. I'm broker of Keller Williams Heritage. I'm also an attorney. So I think we have to keep in mind, what is it that we're being authorized to disclose? That box is disclosing, authorized to disclose concessions, not compensation. It's concessions for closing costs. Some of those closing costs could be used to buyer's agent. And I do understand that the MLSs allow the disclosure of sellers willing to provide concessions. We just can't tie the concessions to paying a buyer's agent. So when we talk about disclosure, what are we disclosing on that? And what is the seller authorizing us to disclose? Again, it's not compensation, but it's the idea of providing some form of concessions. And then it's up to the buyer's agent to come and ask for those concessions to pay their fees if it's under the 5B paragraph of the Texas Realtors listing agreement. So I want to clarify, what are we saying we can and cannot put in the MLS on that?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because it is authorizing buyer expenses, which is defined in the contract. And so the buyer expenses could be compensation to the broker. They could be to go towards the other closing costs that everyone has always applied concessions to before. And the other tricky part, each MLS across the state has different rules about how you can advertise those concessions, whether a seller is willing to advertise those concessions. So just whatever the MLS rules allow is what you want to be looking at. So,
Robin, I think we have one more question coming.
okay, yeah.
All right, I guess I was a little confused about paragraph 5A and 5B. I thought 5B was if the seller did not want to pay compensation to the buyer's broker and only to the listing broker.
Right.
And 5A was the breakdown between what they're going to pay the broker, you know, the listing broker and the buyer's broker.
Yes. That's right. And so 5B, so this, the authorization to disclose the buyer expenses or any payment to buyer expenses, it's not tied to just paragraph 5B. This note is whether it's 5A or 5B. And remember, it's seller expenses, or excuse me, buyer expenses are not just compensation for the buyer's broker. Buyer expenses could be a lot of things, and it's defined in the contract. And we'll take a look at that here in just a few minutes, and hopefully maybe it'll add clarity. Does that kind of help?
I'm not worried so much about the authorization to disclose. I'm trying to break down the paragraphs, and maybe I'm just, you know, coming in a little late. I thought 5A specifically was what the buyer, the seller's paying the broker, the listing broker, and the buyer's broker, right?
Well, so the seller is paying the listing broker, period. And then the listing broker is the one who will be paying the buyer broker. That's what this paragraph 5A is talking about. And so we'll go through as we go through the analysis. I think that it might help as we go through my fancy flow chart over here. I think it'll help a little bit because we'll go through each paragraph and where the money's coming from and where it's going. So if it makes things even less clear, make sure to stop me. But let's go through this, and I think that this will help. So paragraph 5A, you remember, that's the one that authorize or that lists compensation from the seller going to the listing agent. And so that could be any amount. That could be a percentage, that could be a dollar amount. And then out of that amount, the listing broker, there's a statement that the listing broker will pay the buyer broker, if a buyer broker who brings a client in a successful transaction. So in this case, that's where the compensation agreement between brokers, it's TXR 2402, comes into play. Because this becomes a contract, this is a contract between the brokers, the listing broker and the buyer broker, on payment of that compensation for this particular property. This takes place from the MLS. Remember, it used to be in the MLS, there was the unilateral offer of compensation. If you bring a buyer and you're the procuring cause, then you're entitled to that amount. That was the contract. Here, that contract has been eliminated, that we don't have that ability anymore. So that's where this agreement, 2402, becomes important, because this is going to specify who the brokers are, what the property is, and so it's tied to one property so that nobody gets tied into a compensation agreement, that's vague, and it has a term, so it has a time period that could be tied to closing, it could be tied to a week or two after closing, and then it includes the fees. And so these fees are going to be related to what was listed there in paragraph 5A of the listing agreement. And then this is where you put the information at the bottom of page 10. So this is where that goes. And if this is the only way that the buyer broker is getting compensated, then that paragraph 12A1B should not have any numbers listed in there. So it should be one or the other to eliminate any confusion. So that's cooperative compensation. That's compensation coming from the listing broker to the buyer broker. So it's coming out of the listing broker's pocket. So if paragraph 5B in the listing agreement was completed, the seller pays their listing broker only, and that's all that, and the listing broker takes that money and puts it in their pocket and they keep it. So that's where possibly paragraph 12A1B comes into play, because now the seller may want to contribute some amount to the buyer broker expenses. And so are those concessions that we talked about before, where it may be attractive, where they're only paying their broker, the listing broker, a certain amount, but they're also willing to contribute an amount to the buyer broker as well. It's important though to remember, and if this is completed, then there shouldn't be anything in paragraph at the bottom of page 10. So you don't want to create that potential for a dual obligation or any confusion or anything that could cause a problem regarding compensation. It's important to remember though that if the buyer broker compensation is not covered by that amount that was listed in paragraph 12A1B, so if this is less than what the buyer representation agreement says that the buyer has agreed to pay, that buyer would be obligated to pay the rest of that money, pay whatever is remaining pursuant to, if they wanted to negotiate or make changes to that on the buyer broker's side. So did that help? So, and to clarify, I used the pocket analogy earlier. So this is where buyer broker is being paid out of the seller's pocket. So that's the difference. 5A is coming from the listing broker, and that's where you use the paragraph on page 10. Listing agreement 5B, that comes out of the seller's pocket, and that's where you would use paragraph 12 in the contract. Does that help clarify things, or does that just confuse it even more?
Anybody additional questions?
So it's funny because we get these calls on the hotline, and sometimes it takes 20 or 30 minutes to get through the explanation to get people to click. And it takes several times of going through and kind of listening and thinking about it and seeing it. It's not the easiest. Broker Lawyer Committee is not set in stone. They realize that this is an evolving thing, and if there are better ways to do it that anyone has an idea for, you can email general.counsel@trec.tx.gov or trec.texas.gov and send those. They look at those messages every single time. And they'll be meeting again this summer after the legislative session ends to look at any contract changes. So I do have just a couple things. I won't go into the MLS listing options because it sounds like that will be coming up. We are working on making some changes to the listing services paragraphs in the listing agreements, whether it's residential, farm and ranch, or leasing. So we have the required notices. NAR and MLS rules have some required notices that need to go to the consumers, to the sellers on what their property, what it means to list it in the MLS, how that looks, what it means to advertise some things. So when you're talking about the MLS, there are several components to advertising, or when you're talking about listing, there are several components to advertising. It's not just the MLS. And there's the clear cooperation a policy that is still in place. It's not going anywhere, but we do have either all of the options available, either just listing in the MLS, one or more possibly. There's going to be this new, and this is where the new options for advertising in the MLS, the delayed office, or the delayed, always mix up the name of it. I'm going to go back to my flow chart. The delayed marketing exempt listing is going to be the new option. That's where you can list it in the MLS specifically or exclusively, but it not go on those IDX feeds, it not go out to other websites, only in the MLS. That does comply with clear cooperation because it's in the MLS, and so other brokers can see it. It's different from the broker exclusive type of listing where it can only be marketed through your broker, not through the MLS. But once it gets any public advertising, then clear cooperation kicks in, and it needs to be made public within 1 day. There are also some information about just the different rules for clients to have so that they understand what that means, and some of the benefits, that MLS has, and the fact that a listing agent who's benefiting from listing in the MLS, you also contribute that information for when you're looking for properties. It's so the cooperation remains. And then this is the second option that we currently have is just no public marketing at all. And so this goes through and kind of lists for the seller some of the items on why, what goes on and what truly a non-public marketing looks like, and an acknowledgement that if at any point, even by the seller, the property is publicly marketed, then that clear cooperation kicks in and the listing must go on the MLS within 1 day. So just kind of ran through those last items. I know paragraph 12 was the main focus today, but we do have our legal hotline available 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Most days, staffed by 3 super knowledgeable attorneys who can help with any questions for you, for your agents or your colleagues. So please make use of the hotline. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
If there's anybody online who has a question, please unmute yourself.
Robin, what's the bill number of the one that's changing the agency laws? Do you have that handy?
No, but I can find it and put it in the chat so that if you give me just a couple minutes, I'm able to do that, and then maybe somebody there can share when they see it.
Is that likely to pass? What's the status of that bill right now?
I mean, I hate to jinx anything. Went through the Senate very quickly with no problems. We don't anticipate any problems. We got some really good feedback at the committee hearing on it. So we anticipate that it'll move forward pretty quickly.
Any other questions? Robin, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. I'll stay on. I'll add that information to the chat so that if anyone, so that we can share it with the folks who are there.
Thank you very much. And next up, we've got an update on the FRAR mobilization, voice and engagement work in our area. Casey Lee, please.
Pull up the bill number for y'all. I'll pull up that bill number later and give it to y'all before you leave this meeting. Cool. So in your packet, let me before I start, I got limited time here, but we have over 300 brokers in this association. And between the people sitting in this room and the people online, we have about 30 paying attention to what's going on here. So the 80-20 rule is not in effect anymore. It's the 90-10 rule. And y'all are part of the 10. Y'all are involved, y'all are paying attention. Y'all know what's going on in your association, in your communities. One of the best ways that you and your agents can continue to do that is be involved in the Government Affairs Committee. Be involved in what we have going on. There's a couple of things that y'all need to know about. It's in the packet. Couple GA events coming up. Mayfair, everything you need to know about Mayfair is coming May 9th. Now, we're not bringing Mayfair in to ask them what kind of homes, what are your homes price points? We're going to ask them that stuff, but we're going to ask them, what's the diversity of homes that you've got coming in? Because we need diverse homes, right? What plans or what hurdles did you have to overcome to put that community in? What value are you bringing to the community? And how can other communities emulate what you're doing and benefit our community? We're going to be asking them those kind of questions. This is a GA-focused event. And while they're going to tell us how great their community is, they're also going to tell us what they had to do to get there and what our cities need to do to encourage more of that and be better themselves. June 12th, over here at the food bank, we've got TxDOT coming in. We've got the engineers, the district engineers from all 3 districts that represent the counties that we represent. So the Austin district is coming down, the Bexar County district is coming in, that's our north and south. Yoakum district is coming in, that represents us over in Gonzales. All 3 of those district engineers, that's the highest person you can get in that organization. They're coming in to talk to us. And they're bringing the big maps with them. They're talking about all the road development and changes that are going on in this area and how it's going to affect the properties along that area. Do you think that's valuable to you? Yeah. Do you think it's valuable to your clients? You need to be coming to this. You need to be telling your agents to come to this. Who has been getting calls already from your clients about, I need to protest my property value? A lot of y'all. The property valuation protest is due May 15th. And I know that's the way that we always protest. I'm doing it. You better believe I'm doing it. But the better way to do it is those valuations have to go in. They go in, the rolls get certified usually in July. And then the rate setting hearings happen in September, in August and September. Great. Protest your valuation. Why are we telling people my property's worth less than it is? It's so they can't tax us on it at such a high rate. Go in and have the conversation during the rate setting process. You better believe your Government Affairs Committee is going to be there. We're going to be speaking up and saying why. Not that you don't need the money, but why do you need money? Talk to me as a member of this community, as a property owner in this community. But for right now, May 15th is the deadline to protest those property values. Early voting. Early voting is over. We are supporting 4 candidates across our 5 counties right now. We're supporting 4 candidates, 2 over here in New Braunfels City Council and 2 ISD trustees over in Luling. You can still vote. Who went out and voted during early voting? 1 person. Guys, we can do better than that. And that's indicative of what's going on. This is a low turnout vote. This is extremely low turnout vote. You want to have your voice heard. You want to prove that realtors make a difference. Now's the time to do it. We're already making a difference in one of the city council races over here. We're going to make a difference in the other city council race over here. Go out and vote. Saturday, May 3rd. Saturday, May 3rd is election day. If y'all are going to be out with a client driving around showing them, stop by a polling location, take them to go vote. Hey, I'm going to drive you around. We're going to look at some houses, but we're going to stop over here. I need to go vote real quick. Have you voted yet? Why don't you go vote with me real quick? How impactful is that? So, last thing, our bowling tournament. I mentioned we're supporting candidates. The way we support our candidates is by raising money through Tree Pack. And as brokers, if there's one person in any office that can make a difference in our tree pack fundraising efforts, it's y'all. By experience, if y'all tell your agents tree pack's important, you need to participate, they do it. Lee, you told your office, the majority of his office is major investors now. I want that to sink in for a minute. He said it's important to him. And then we turned around, and not for that reason, but we turned around, he ran for office, we supported it. That's what we do with that money. We support candidates who understand our issues. So we got a bowling tournament. You can invest at any point in time. In fact, we got a Tree Pack Helping Hands deal going all year. If you invest $50 in Tree Pack, you get credit for that $50. We turn around, we give $15 to the food bank at the end of the year, directly supporting your community. Cool. But if you want to come to our bowling tournament, we still got spaces. Our bowling tournament is this Friday. It's in San Marcos at Sunset Bowling Lanes. We're going to have a good time. We wish you were there. I know I'm looking around the room. A bunch of y'all are already signed up to be there. So thank y'all. Any questions from me? I'm going to get you that bill number that y'all were asking about. 3913. House Bill HB 3913. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, who's next? The flyers for those events I talked to you about are in this packet.
Okay, mine's really, really quick. Are y'all aware that there's a broker toolkit on the website? Okay, so when you're on the website, on the member side, under resources, we have a broker toolkit. We log into these meetings so that you have a video of these meetings and all of the materials that we provide. We also plug in anything that we think is beneficial to you, or if you let us know something that you're looking for. So a couple of things in your packet that I know people have asked for. We've got a list of our member benefits. And we also have after that a list of what someone would pay if they're a new agent coming in. Our local dues are $130. If they utilize the benefits we provide, just the top level there, that's $700 value. I think it's a really good return on their investment. Everything else is going to be the same. Texas National, it's the same no matter what association you go to. But if you work in our area, if you live in our area, then participating in our area helps us grow stronger. So I just wanted to bring that up. The other one that I wanted to say was we do 18 meetings. We can have staff, leadership, committee chairs come out. If you'd like them to talk at your office about the things that we're doing or answer questions, please let me know. We'll set it up. Doesn't cost you anything. We can come out one of your staff meeting or your sales meetings. You tell us how much time you want us to take. If there's something specific you want us to talk about, we'll fill it in. Doesn't have to be everybody. If you want 1, 2, whatever this topic is, we'll make it happen. And the other one in there is we just created the broker bulletin. You have the very first one. So we'll send this out via email each month, asking you to post it in your offices. Everybody's really busy, but if they have it and they see it, they can see some of the things that we're doing, offering to our members. Okay. So I just wanted to bring attention to that. And the last thing is, I depend on you to let me know what you want to know about. So if there's something happening out there and you want more information about it, please let me know, because we take that and that's who we look at for these meetings. We want it to be beneficial for you. So just let us know when something's happening and we'll get a speaker in here. Thank you.
Well, keep walking on the problem of speakers. Our GA committees are led by y'all. Speakers we have come in with the all.
You said it there.
Yeah. No, you're okay.
Okay. So we've got some things coming up that's going to change how you do the MLS. And we're kind of forced into this by matrix. It's probably going to happen toward the end of this month, beginning of June. That's going to require a multi-authentication. I know. I know. AI is looking at how people are logging in, and they are assigning a risk to it. So in the very beginning, everyone's going to be a risk until the AI knows you and knows your computers, cell phones, iPads. They start learning that. We'll be training the staff of the shareholders next week. And then we'll start sending information out. It's going to change how you get onboarded when new agents come in, because everyone's going to have to do this. And if you're sharing passwords, it's going to be a real pain because it's going to make you do it every single time. You're also going to need to make sure that you've got your correct cell phone and email, not your office, or you won't be able to get the code if you're out in the field. So we'll be working with the AEs and staff to get that going. Clear cooperation. We haven't decided what we're going to do with that yet. I want to hear from you today. We're thinking about adding days in the coming soon to give you more than 14. I've had brokers contact and say, don't even put a limit. So we're looking at that. We have to make it an active status, and it's never been an active status before. You can do showings while it's in there, and that's never been there. And it has to go in a valve. I think that's the other one. Yes, ma'am. No. Yeah. Kind of. But if you, the broker, want to put it on your website, you can.
Correct.
It just can't go in IDX. But
the IDX going to go to other brokers when you advertise it? Because I get emails all the time. Private listing. I didn't think that was.
You can market it.
As long as it's in the MLS.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
That's the trick, is it has to be in the MLS
Right.
before you market it.
Saying not, you know, market it on.
Yeah. Katie?
Hold on, you're quiet.
Sorry, I always have a question. So if on the listing agreement, it says it has to be on MLS within 1 day of it
One
being,
business day.
1 business day of it being coming soon. So if you have a coming soon sign in the yard, it needs to either be as a coming soon or a private listing or something like that. So it has to be in the system, not IDX searchable, but for the realtors, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Very good.
So we've got till September to activate this. So do you have any thoughts of what you would like in the coming soon? What you would like to change?
What do you think the disadvantage of not having the number of days? I guess from your perspective, what's the, you know, the private listing and.
I don't care.
I think.
I don't have a position on that. But when I had my license, it was not uncommon to take 10 days for professional photos or fix the roof or whatever. Sometimes 14 days isn't enough.
I've only had 3 calls since we put in the coming soon, where they had legitimate reasons to go more than not just the 14 days, but then it goes to hold or temporary off market for another 21 days, where it would exceed that. So between those two status, I think it's served. I just haven't heard. Maybe it hasn't. I don't know. That's why we're kind of asking to see what y'all want and what's going to work best for you. There's a lot of discussions when we first came out with the coming soon, because when we went back and did analytics, we had temporary off market that somehow got missed. And then we had temporary off market from like 2016. That's like never on market, not temporary on market. And we didn't want the same thing to happen coming soon, because we don't want coming soon to be like coming never necessarily. So it's open for discussion right now, because if we're going to make changes, start thinking about your business practices, think about the listings you put in the past, and let's make sure that we can bring this into the future so it's going to work for you.
I would say if it's coming soon status, whenever we default our search, you know how it auto populates to be active option or whatever, whenever you're starting to search. If it could default to the coming soon as well. So if we're out in the field and we're looking for something or we're doing a quick search, then those coming soons also pop up so we don't miss something. Because the reason it's in there is that listing agent wants to sell it, right? It just may not be up to it may not be ready. And then the other thing is, I feel like a lot of these waterfront and luxury listings, and you know this, Beckie, they stay as a private listing, as an off market, as a coming soon, because I think a little bit of it is they don't want to disclose the sales price. The buyers like it for not to be disclosed as a sales price because it's a luxury and they don't want to be taxed on that. So I think there is a demand for us realtors to still have access to that information, with where you just need to reach out to the agent to ask the price.
And the reason I don't have a time frame that I'm hooked up with is I like Sabor's separate. Yeah, I like that entire concept. Everyone can still see it, but you can have that protection. The problem is you don't get the data.
And you can't search it. You can't set up a search where as it comes up, it doesn't give you those if a new one comes in and you have a search set up for a client, it doesn't alert you.
Yeah.
So that would be a critical thing to be searchable for if you're setting up a client. What is that called?
Like a prospect.
Auto search. Yeah. Save search so that it'll show up whenever that hits the market. So maybe it could be coming soon / private listing. Is there a point to have?
I probably wouldn't want to put private listing anywhere. Just the terminology I wouldn't want.
I would just say, with not giving it a limit, we still have those wonderful agents that think, they have a listing agreement, but never renew their listing agreement. Even if it doesn't go live in the MLS. So you can have a listing agreement for 30 days and the clients still aren't ready 30 days later or whatever days later. Is it really something you can show? I mean, I don't know. Are you going to have to call the agent and say, oh, can I show this even though it's coming soon? Or no, it's not going to be ready for 10 more days and it's still coming soon?
NAR changed that. You have to allow showings.
Even in private listings and coming soon.
In coming soon or delayed marketing, whatever you want to call it.
Huh?
Will I go to showing time?
Okay. You can do show.
We're talking the new rule change.
Yeah, you can write contracts on them. Yeah.
Soon, so that
No.
it's searchable? No, we
It's-
still have to go in there and ask for.
That active is behind the scenes with us.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Oh, sorry.
It's your back and forth.
So I had a question about Sabor. With them now splitting the MLS and the association, they keep approaching individual board members and trying to peel us off and have conversations. You've told us in this meeting that y'all have had no conversations. That's not what they're telling us. So is there any updates?
Talk to everybody. In
Okay.
fact,
Well, could you share some of those conversations with us? Because in the past, you've said that there have been no conversations.
there are conversations. I've talked to Netris, he's talked to Netris, I've talked to Abor, Sabor, Corpus, Highland Lakes, Austin, Unlock.
Talking about what?
I'd like you to know that Sabor's having the conversations with our board on an individual basis. So if we would like to have a unified conversation, we probably ought to start talking about it.
Well, when you say your board,
Four Rivers Association of Realtors.
is talking to Sabor.
I'm telling you, Sabor is trying to make contact on an individual basis with board members. And when we've asked you to talk about it, you've said that there's nothing to talk about, there's no conversations. We need to start thinking about having the conversation.
For data share, merger,
Everything. Four Rivers Association deals with it more so than the rest of CTXMLS. It's impacting us greatly, and something's gonna have to be done in the coming months, years, and we're gonna need to start talking about it. I don't have the answers. I just know that we need to have a discussion.
Communications. And part of that, we're here at Four Rivers right now. When I go to Round Rock or Temple Belton or Fort Hood, they're more impacted, or San Marcos, Kyle Butte, the north side of Four Rivers, there's more impact from Unlock MLS than there is Sable. So there's conversations going both ways.
But they are cooperation. As Sabor and Abor already are sharing data.
Doing data share.
Data, yeah. So is that something that maybe we could do with them? And keep our Central Texas MLS and do data share with them?
Where's Regina?
I think that's not, I don't think that's something we're gonna discover and solve here, but it is something that can be talked about on the board level and then brought up to the MLS level.
So here's something to consider. Because I'm going outside my lane. But I've been your president for a few years, so I'll jump back in your lane. If you were to do a data share with Sabor, you may question whether Four Rivers can survive. And maybe Four Rivers merges.
Well, I think that I think part of the issue is, Beckie, is that brokers are getting these questions from their agents.
Sure.
Why aren't we data sharing? What's going on? And our response is there are no conversations. So we haven't, but that's what you're reporting to us, is that there aren't any conversations, but we're here. Yeah, that is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Conversations, I can't tell you that.
But the position has been thus far on CTXMLS is we're not having
3 months
conversations, but everybody else around us.
They were different conversations. Needed to know.
Okay.
What the conversations that we're having now are different.
Okay.
Vastly different than 6 months.
I think that the point is that we need to have some continuity in our message, because the brokers are getting these questions from their agents and we're not providing.
Okay, I'll tell you.
We do not have a unified message, and that's what we should be doing.
Well, there isn't a message yet.
So, okay, so this isn't new. I mean, this goes back to, I can remember back to like 2002, 3, 4, back in that time frame. And what's important here, is it important to you to have the Four Rivers Association of Realtors? Is that important to you? Because here's why. With San Antonio, my understanding, now they haven't approached me, but we've had conversations, and then you get bits and pieces of conversations that others have had. And so the thing is that San Antonio would like to see us go away, quite frankly. The data share, are they willing to share some of the revenue with that? And the question, it's my understanding is no, they don't want to share the revenue. A lot of our revenue does come from the MLS, okay? And so that's what makes Four Rivers a vital organization. Is Four Rivers important to you? It certainly is important to me as a realtor in Texas, because Four Rivers Association has been one of the strongest associations, even though it's small. Back when we were New Braunfels Canyon Lake, we were very well recognized, and we had one of the best associations in the state. We won the Government Affairs Award in 2010 for the entire state of Texas. So we make a difference in our business. We make a difference in our community. We make a difference for the clients we represent. That's important, guys. And so your association, so the question is, how do we get with San Antonio to where we can have an agreement with them where we help our members at the same time, don't kill off the Four Rivers Association financially, because that's what we're dealing with here. And it's not this us against you and you against them and that kind of stuff. We've got to be a team. Okay.
Mark, you nailed it with that. You can say some things that we can't, right? So, but yeah, when it might be about time for Four Rivers Board to sit down and put pencil to paper and see what that really looks like, and then make an informed decision afterwards. Because I think it'll awaken, it doesn't look pretty.
I mean, back before Mark, there was all of us that were trying to deal with something that would be a merger or a combination. What came out of that and what you have to convey to your people is Four Rivers and Central Texas MLS being separate created a confederation, not an absorption. Okay. Sabor has always wanted to absorb and terminate the association. Whereas in Central Texas and Four Rivers and all the others that have joined us at Confederation, that says the MLS is a separate entity which has a revenue sharing base, and then each association gets to survive, so it's political benefit. Okay, it's assimilation versus confederation. And you have to keep that in mind. So when they negotiate on our behalf, are we getting a confederation or are we getting an assimilation?
They can't hear. Okay, so what Sabor is doing, they're separate now, and they're actually creating councils within Sabor, so people can keep their units, entities and their advocacy efforts and do different things. So it is a little different than it was in the past that they are working on. I'm not promoting Sabor. I'm just trying to stick with the facts of what's happening right now. I don't work for Sabor. I'm not promoting it, but I'm just telling you what they have said to some of us. Also, we just have to understand we are a shareholder within Central Texas MLS. Like Beckie said, she's speaking today here. Might be a different story in Williamson County. What if they don't want Sabor and they want ABOR instead? Not all the shareholders agree. Then we cannot do it. Just something to remember. You have a shareholder situation and we all count for the same votes. We don't have more votes just because we are a bigger MLS than the others. So just something to remember. We are a shareholder with equal votes on every decision Central Texas makes.
So I think we can confirm that there's an equal pain point on both sides. And that pain point is exactly what you bring up. From a broker level, the data is split, things are fragmented. There's got to be a way to solve this. We don't have all the answers quite yet, and things are kind of in motion. In the past, the conversations, right, Trina, more than 6 months ago, not most recently, the conversations have been, we want to do something together. We want to work with you guys. Come, let's have a discussion. You sit down at the table and it's like, we would love you to join us anytime. Exactly what Lee's point was. It's like, no, that's not what we want, because then we lose our local representation here in New Braunfels. But the conversation's always like, well, you guys can join us anytime. We'd love to have you. And so it stops. So there has to be a solution out there. And now, most recently, talks are slightly different. And we can't go into what those are, but we're talking to them all the time. There's got to be some sort of solution that we can all get our heads together on both sides. It's going to benefit you all. Get rid of some of those pain points and make it better. We don't know what that is yet.
Mike, so it looks to us like on the consumer side that Sabor, ABOR, and HAR have figured out that model where they're just doing data share. They're keeping their own entities. They're charging their own MLS fees. They're charging their own association dues. But then if you put it in one system, it goes to all systems. So I think as brokers, that's what, and as realtors, that's what we would like to see, is where we just put it in Central Texas MLS, and then it shares that data with the other associations, but we don't. And I will say on the this is more of a broker discussion. Whenever I'm searching, I like the search engine. This is a product discussion on the ABOR side because it's more like ours.
Do you like,
And so, say it again.
do you like their upgrade?
No, I do not like their
That's
upgrade.
universal across our entire
No.
region, by the way.
It's coming.
And
I've never
Yeah.
tried it.
And I don't like where that whole map thing jumps and all that. Whoa. But if I will go on their system to look at the Sabor listings. So I'm still paying for all of these, and a lot of us were paying for so many, which is a weird overlap. But because data is our gold, right?
Yeah.
But we would just like it to be more where it interfaces to all, so we can tell our clients that your listing is going in all of these MLS systems to get outreach to all of these realtors and brokers. And we're in it for our clients.
I agree. What we're seeing on our side is that now that they have that data share, right, they're far enough away from each other where they don't have as much of a transitional overlap as we do here. And so it's a little safer, I guess, for them, but we are seeing it. I'm seeing agents drop Sabor or Austin and go to HAR because you get more services for cheaper. And if you can get the same data, then who cares which association? That same conversation is going to happen here. And when you're this close, and then what exacerbates the whole situation that frustrates me is that I have agents that are like, oh, I put this listing in New Braunfels, but I only put it in Sabor. It's like, well, you remember here, you're supposed to put it here. Yeah, but I can find more listings over there. So they're getting more of a foothold in your area than they've ever had before. And that makes it even worse. So it's good. Yeah. So it's starting to transition. So again.
Yeah. Personally, I'd like to see a state MLS.
Yes.
Well, there was an opportunity years ago. Yeah.
You won't have to wait long. It's
No.
coming.
No, in fact, almost all of us will be
I'm just
together
saying,
in
it's
San
coming.
Diego.
I'm not saying
in
it'll be done
June.
right. It'll be done.
Yes.
HAR and A4.
Yeah.
We've talked to all of them. Yeah.
But we still haven't done anything.
Everybody would.
Oh, we can. We just got to put the pencil and see what that's going to look like locally here.
Yeah.
That's
Again,
Well, that's-
your board's gonna have to decide if it wants to stay Four Rivers.
Well, we can still stay forward. Yeah. Why do you need
Four Rivers.
And the board is in here, it's been investigated and cutting the budget. So I'm telling you guys, we've got to figure something out that works better for us. Well, let me restate what he said. We're gonna review it, but we're gonna look at some necessity and things that maybe departments have stuff. I want to know that that's better.
We had a question.
My question is, I've been a commercial broker and appraiser for almost 40 years and just recently been doing a little bit more residential, but I guess I don't understand, why do we need so many boards? Why do we have to have a board for every location? Why can't we just have one? The Texas Association of Realtors, and that's it. And then everybody has a local office. Why do we have to have different boards?
So because your local association is what's involved in your communities, I don't know the city council of San Marcos, but there's a San Marcos. What ideally would be ideal for Four Rivers would be if we had a Four Rivers board, and then we had sub-boards, one in San Marcos, one in Seguin, one in New Braunfels, one in Lockhart, Luling area. And that's even contrary to what you're stating. And the reason why you want that is because realtors, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're likely going to be on the menu. So you've got to be involved in your community. You've got to be involved in the city council. You got to be involved in everything. And if you just had one big board for the entire state, you can forget that. And I'm going to tell you what, if you don't think that, I came here today to talk about this. I thought it was going to be on the agenda, but it's extremely important. The Texas associations and your local associations are so critically important, because you can look down the road, the way things are going. If we don't take proactive, positive influence action and increasing the involvement in our association and our communities, this profession is in jeopardy. It is in serious jeopardy. I don't want to see that happen. Do you? So.
Operate like the state Congress, where you've got Senate, you've got certain amount of representatives per area based on just the area, and then you have a certain number of representatives based on the population density of that area. And you can accomplish the same thing with one association.
Yeah, I beg to differ with you on that. And here's why. When we had when we had San Antonio Board of Realtors, Seguin Board of Realtors, and New Braunfels Canyon Lake, you had 12 members, 12 members, 12 members. And the message from each of those boards was disseminated to the offices 36 times. Whereas now, if you have 12 members, I think we have 14, but if you have 12 members is now, it's being disseminated. The level of involvement in our association has dropped tremendously. So if you just go to one big association for the state, it won't happen.
So let me finish before they take the one more thing. We're going to be adding a product, probably not till September, but it's going to be AI. We're going to put it on Matrix. So it'll take a while for Matrix to learn it and the AI to learn your stuff. But rather than putting in your photographs last, you can put them in first, and the AI will start writing the descriptions of your photographs. It will start filling out your listing. You'll still have to check it until it learns. We're going to drop it into one home so that your clients can come in and say, I think I want to look at outdoor kitchens. And it's going to go out and find the outdoor kitchens. But if your client starts looking at fireplaces and your client never told you they were interested in fireplaces, the AI will tell you, did you know your client likes fireplaces too? So you can watch what your clients are doing. So lots of fun stuff coming.
They wanted to roll that out this next month. And we put the brakes on it. We're like, no, we're not going to change listing input for like Austin's listing input in the middle of the busy season. We're like, let's push that off to September. So it's coming, but we don't want to jump into that fire too quickly.
So our Matrix will mirror what a board has already implemented, where it kind of autofills for you. Then you have to go through and make sure it's right or add things to it.
Yeah, what happened is Austin hadn't made any changes in so long. And everything that we've done over the last 4 years, they bundled together in one update.
Well, no, we'll say if you're dropping.
Yeah, it's kind of like Dice Connect.
That's the problem we're trying to resolve. And I don't know if CoreLogic's going to have a solution for that yet, but like how we have the check boxes, right, where you can see all the fields. They have like this little window and you have to scroll through every one to find all the fields. That's really not cool for listing input, you know, for what you're trying to input on there. But
we're having several.
They know that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, they know we are not happy at all.
Got 5 minutes left. And I got like another hour worth of stuff, but a new product that we're rolling out, you know, man, a few words, what can I say? We're going to be rolling out a list track coming up. We had a demo with them and the Board of Governors approved it. Has anybody used list track or heard of list track yet? What are you doing?
I mean, I've paid for it, you know, I'm thinking that the state board provides it and any board that you have the same or vice versa. And so, I mean, I've given it to my clients just as like, you know, showing, hey, here
the reports
happened, yeah, over the last week, so it gives them news where I would do that myself, take a look at the hit counters and see how many agents that didn't show up in their searches. So it solves that. It makes it less
Yeah. What's really nice about that, so on the Sabor and Abor side, you have to upgrade and pay for it yourself, so the broker has to. We're gonna offer it as a member benefit into the system, so we're gonna pay for it for y'all for access on there. We've got a lot of brokers asking for it, but you know how like right now, if your client wants to know what's happening with my listing, you have to go to the my hit counters, which still doesn't make any sense to me why they call it hit counters, but they do. But you want to see how many emails, how many views, how many client views, all that. List Track will track all that, but not just within Central Texas MLS. It's going to track your listing through Sabor, wherever you belong, and put it in a comprehensive report. And then they show really easy to see and to look at graphics and analyze like what's really happening with the listing. And it's branded, so you can brand it to yourself, or your agents can brand it to your brokerage, and then hand that to the sellers. And you have like a really nice looking form saying, hey, this is what your property is doing now. You know, this is what you're expecting, and you can make informed decisions, data-based informed decisions after that. We haven't set a date on that one yet. Yeah, we just had a demo and loved it, and we've been getting some demand from brokers to take a look at it. Yeah, it'd be nice. And right now it's all fragmented, and what they say is that they're going to take it from the multiple MLSs you belong to, and they'll put it all together for that property. So that's really neat.
Yeah, it'll tie it together in the background.
Oh. Yeah, that's a trick. Yeah, right. So the data shares and the mergers and all that can't be done yet. We're working on it, right? All right. I think that's all I've got. I had a lot more, but I'll start sending out. I think I'll work with Regina to send you all out some emails. There's a whole list of violations that we have for just 4 Rivers. We can send that out of what are the pain points and stuff for agents. And then there's a lot new more things I had on my list for questions in education that Erica gets. Like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And if she's getting that in her classes, I'm sure you guys are hearing about that in your offices. And then we can work on making classes or doing something to improve those workflows. So sound like a plan?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank y'all very much. Thank you everyone for being here today. Obviously, we have a lot of passion, and that's a good thing. We're hoping to have some answers for y'all soon, but if nothing else, you guys know, again, we can't always say what we're talking about or the conversations we're having, but I can guarantee you we are having them. So for what that's worth. Thank you guys for being here. If y'all have any questions or anything, let me know. Have a good day. What do I do with this?
Measure 8.